Hi, guys. So we haven't done an interview or had any guests on the channel in a while, and I have a very special guest today, a dear friend of mine, Bryan. He has a YouTube channel, Fixed Air Moon. He's an amazing astrologer, like mind-blowing astrologer, and we are going to talk about how astrology isn't just about the sun sign. It's not just about your moon sign, not just about your ascendant. It's about allowing yourself to heal through the lessons that we learn in life and the wounds that we were born with, and finding that healing place so that we can nurture ourselves and step into our purpose. And I don't think that a lot of people like to talk about that, but we've been discussing the shadow side. We've been discussing all of the darkest parts of ourselves, and that can be seen in our astrology charts. And if we all sort of paid attention to that a little bit more, I think that it might be easier to heal, because then we can understand why we are the way that we are. So I wanted to have Bryan on today so that because he's really good at explaining chart stuff. So Bryan, hi.
Hi, Betsy. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yeah.
Really appreciated. My name's Bryan, of course, and I'm an astrologer. I'm at Fixed Air Moon on Twitter and, of course, on YouTube, Instagram. So that's where you can find me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. You know, there's definitely a lot of healing aspects that go on within our natal chart. And, it is definitely the energetic blueprint of why we're here. And healing is such a big part of that. So, happy to talk about that stuff because I think it's really necessary, especially in this time at where we're at
Oh,
right now.
definitely. And I think that if people understood that they are born with a particular wound, and like everybody has one,
Yeah.
because we all like to kind of hide that aspect, the darkest aspects of us. So just laying it out on the table and letting everybody know and where they can find it even. Sometimes like it's really always nice to get an astrology reading from an astrologer. I had Bryan read my solar return chart for me this year, and that it was such a great opportunity for me to do that, because there are things that we miss about ourselves when we read our own charts. So even those people who know how to read their charts, I think that this is going to be really informative to them.
Yeah. I even get chart readings from astrologers too. It's just there's always a different perspective, and every astrologer has a gift that's unique to themselves of how they can relay and interpret the information. So there's definitely no one size fits all to astrology. It's a lot. It's everything, and it's infinite too, which is even cooler.
Oh
But
man,
yeah,
so much to learn all the time. Like
all the time.
I think I learn something new every day, honestly, even
Same.
still.
Yep. I plan on learning a lot more too. And like you said, like we all come in with like a couple particular wounds, and it's interesting because usually those wounds are where we hold the most wisdom and power.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very big to look into that stuff, and yeah, I'm happy to go over that whenever you're ready.
No, yeah, let's do it. Bryan's going to use my chart, which, because I have nothing to hide from anybody ever.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull it up on my screen here. So this is Betsy's lovely natal chart. So there's many different ways to run it, many different house systems. I'm just going to use this equal house system for this particular instance. But, the first thing when it comes to healing, when you're looking at your natal chart, is always Chiron, which is shaped like a key up here. And like the backstory on Chiron, if you're not familiar, is Chiron was a centaur. He was the son of Kronos, Saturn actually, and also a nymph from the water who I can't remember her name right now. But, well, Chiron here wasn't born from like a consensual, it wasn't like that. Saturn, took what he wanted and bounced. And then I think her name was Persepolis or something like that. Anyways, that water nymph ended up, giving birth to this centaur, and she abandoned him. So right from the get-go, Chiron was abandoned and not loved. So Chiron ended up being adopted by some other centaurs, and he was a different kind of centaur, which is interesting too in itself because he had the front legs of a human and the rest of the horse body that he had was a horse. So he was already unique and different and a little weird, but I kind of like put him up on another level in terms of centaurs. And what happened was he eventually, he studied and became one of the greatest philosophers and teachers and healers in Greek mythology. And he was able to do a lot of work and help a lot of other people in that area. He was immortal, being the son of Saturn, who was the god Cronus, the god of time. So he already had this immortality to him. And that is important in his story because eventually he was a mentor to Hercules. And Hercules, ended up getting in some weird things. And he always kind of had this like battle between centaurs, which is funny because one of his greatest mentors were centaurs, but the other ones didn't seem to like him. And there was a battle that took place. Hercules had poison arrows and he accidentally shot Chiron in the leg with a poison arrow, which is a big deal because he was immortal. So he couldn't die from this poison, but it was extremely painful and like unbearable. So Chiron ended up having to give up his immortality in order to heal, and it ended up costing him his life in the end. But it's the point of like, I guess, giving up some sort of power or some immortality to be able to heal yourself and heal others in that way. So Chiron's very important. That's why they call him the wounded healer. And even if we look at Chiron as an asteroid, which it's not really an asteroid, it's not really a planet, Chiron is very weird, and he wasn't discovered until 1977 by an astronomer who was using a telescope. So he's already weird. He's orbiting the sun. He's in between. He's right in the Kuiper belt. He's in between Uranus and Saturn, and he's on this really weird and erratic elliptical path. So he's already bouncing around, and all these other conscious bodies, these planets in our solar system, are looking up at this guy like, what the heck is this guy doing? Who are you? Why do you kind of look like a planet, but why are you not a planet? So he's this weirdo in our zodiac and in our astrology. And, he really is this journey of the human, because we are kind of this weird thing on this planet. We are the only things on this planet that look like we do, that walk like we do, that talk, that are conscious enough to even have these experiences and then talk about them. So it's a very important part of our human journey, and that's why I believe they gave him the glyph of a key here, because he unlocks huge doors in our life. So if we look at Betsy's chart, she has Chiron in Taurus in the 8th house. So Chiron in Taurus is wounds that you came into this life with about self-confidence, self-worth, not thinking that you're beautiful enough, not being comfortable in reality, or not thinking that you can build the reality that you desire. Excuse me. So, we all have this unique Chiron place. And the 8th house deals with trust as well. It deals with shadow and light, and it's very occult. So and it's also very psychic, the 8th house, and it deals with death and rebirth. So for instance, Betsy here came into this life with some self-confidence issues that she had to work on to find the ability to create the life that she wanted, and to look deeper than the surface, and to look past reality, to go to a dark place but come back up into a very light place. And what this does is this shows where you can also heal others. So it's no wonder that you look at where Betsy's at right now as an intuitive healer, a tarot healer, even an astrologer. Like, Betsy's a very good astrologer, if you guys don't know that already. And then she does the Akashic Records reading. Like, there's reasons that she can go into these places, because that's where her greatest like power and wisdom lies. And we all come into life with that power and that ability, and it's usually through very deep wounds that we can unlock these doors to our greatest gifts, and to be of service to not only ourselves but of others in very, very big and important ways. So wherever Chiron's at in your chart, really is like the first step to look at and understand when it comes to where your greatest gifts are and what you can, you can bring up. And often, you have to deal with childhood stuff. And that's why I think a lot of, there's the inner child work that a lot of people tell you to do when you're getting into spirituality and going into that. And it really is true, because we kind of come in as children, even without the programming, with these wounds that are just, kind of set for us to work on, to, bring that wisdom out. Chiron holds all the wisdom. He is the most knowledgeable centaur, and for that reason. So after Chiron, the next thing to look at, in my opinion, for wounds and especially karma, is the planet Saturn. So Betsy has Saturn. What was that?
No, nothing. I'm
Oh,
just
sorry.
laughing because of where my Saturn is placed. It's just funny to see it.
Your
Like, I
chart
literally
is
laugh at my chart now.
your
It's
chart is so like
no
spot on. It's so funny, just like all of them are. But just knowing you and then seeing your chart, it's just like, yep.
Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt. That's yeah.
So Saturn is the ruler of karma. So Saturn's important. He wants to bring us control and have us figure out things. So where Saturn is in your chart is a very important aspect of you. And it definitely is like this structure that you have to work on within yourself. So Saturn rules time, karma, structure, responsibilities, long-term planning. It is like this step-by-step thing. It's not something that happens overnight. And that's why Saturn is the last of the planets we can see. It takes 28 and a half to 30 years to come around the sun with retrogrades. So it's he reminds us that we're definitely a part of time, and it takes time to accomplish things and to evolve in life. So where Saturn's at's important. So Saturn in Virgo in the 12th house for Betsy. It's it's finding responsibility in the daily life, in daily routines. It's building structure and creating a reality that that makes sense for the individual. And in the 12th house, it's also karma from past lives. And you can look at the North Node too, which is almost, conjunct with a 7-degree orb there. It's about bringing spirituality to reality for Betsy. It's about having structures based on the unknown and looking within and not looking, so much in reality, but merging the two. And her chart is like just all over that everywhere. Kind of funny. Um, so Saturn is another important part to look at. And then the nodes are like right there as in importance too. And when it comes to healing and where we want to go and where we came from. So you can do a lot of past life work, as well as like where you're supposed to go in this life by looking at these lunar nodes. Now the lunar nodes are, if you're not familiar, they're Latin. Node is Latin for the word knot. So they're basically invisible knots in space that serve to the sun and the moon. And this is why we get eclipses, because when the sun and the moon make a new moon or a full moon next to the nodes, it generates an eclipse. It's where these two planets line up and sync up on the ecliptic so that they cross each other, or the Earth will cross in front. It's like a perfect alignment. So they're very karmically and destined in our journey. So the south node to look at is where you came from. It's the south. We don't necessarily want to go to the south node, but at the same time, the south node is very important because we've already been there and we hold that wisdom and that knowledge. So that can be a part of the healing too, is when you need to look for strength, you can grab it from the south node. But in order to really accomplish what you're doing in this life, it's about taking it to the north node. So the south node in Pisces in the 6th house is like a past life here of being very, you could even say, extremely witchy, extremely occult, extremely spiritual in a past life,
Yeah.
but also bringing it to reality where there was almost ridicule. Like the world wasn't ready for it this time. And you can look back to like Salem witch trials that have happened in the past and all these different things in the past that have taken place because the consciousness wasn't ready at that time to see the other side. It was just about more of a reality based or just a strict religious base that they didn't want to hear no other forms, especially of like a magic or, anything to do with that.
Yeah, and after doing my Akashic records, I know how many there, almost every single life. So it's really funny. I would love to have seen what my chart looked like in past lives, because I'm like, I kind of feel like I was always a South Node Pisces for life after life after life after life.
Yeah,
This one.
absolutely. I agree, because sometimes I think this chart doesn't necessarily just represent our last life, but it can represent a culmination
Yeah,
of past lives.
yeah.
But that's up for debate. I don't have like proof for that.
Oh
That's just,
no, well we
maybe that
don't
just
at all.
channeled to me that I could bring to you guys, because I've never actually said that before.
Yeah.
But
I've
so
always
yeah,
thought that. I've always thought that the South Node wasn't just your last lifetime, but many lifetimes kind of culminated into this one. But
perfect.
yeah,
Yep.
I've always seen that.
So that's a big part to look at too. And they're always in opposition. The nodes are always going to be in exact opposition. They're locked in axis with each other. So if you're ever looking for the north or the south node, they're always going to be exactly across the chart from each other. So the north node in Virgo, it's so interesting too, because Betsy is this 12th house sun and has so much 12th house energy. And the 12th house is very, very much on a spiritual destined journey. And it's hard to find that in the beginning. Often they can go through a lot of like wondering what the point is or why they're here, and escaping to drugs and other things like that. It's a slippery place to be. There's a lot of duality. It's very much light and dark. um, and she has so much energy there, and the north node's there, of course, conjunct Venus, Saturn, the sun's right there. The north node's right at the midpoint, between Saturn and the sun. It's very fascinating. And the north node in Virgo wants to experience reality. It wants to be grounded in reality, but it also wants to be of service. There's a very strong aspect of being service and helping others in this life for Betsy. That's very much the Virgo and Pisces axis. It is a very much service oriented and compassionate for others axis. So in this life, it's really about helping people find their spirituality and merge it with reality, because that's the time we're in right now. And that's where Betsy's destiny lies, is by being of service to others, by showing them compassion and showing them spirituality and showing them that there's more than just the physical, but that you can merge the two in a really beautiful and harmonious way. And also, very important aspect that you can look at when it does come to healing, when you dive into your sun sign, because where your sun's at, the sign and the house, really shows you, your soul's purpose of why it came here. That the nodes are kind of the destiny, but your soul is your inner light. It's your illuminary, and so is the sun. So really, you can look at the sun as your soul's identity. And
I love that you said that, because a lot of astrologers are trying to pull people away from, like, even I kind of got looped into the idea that the sun wasn't as important as we make it. And I think that the pendulum is swinging too far to the other direction, where it's like the sun's not as important as you want it to be in your chart, kind of
yeah,
thing.
well, some
I'm really
people have
actually
like
glad that you
their
said
sun
that.
sign in signs that they don't, they're like, oh, I got a bad sign, so they resonate more with their moon sign or their rising or
Yeah.
whatever. But you came here for a reason, and you chose this time. I mean, we might think that this is just random, but everything is very predetermined. And from a higher self perspective, you chose exactly when you came in. And I mean, that's true to like when you have premature babies, and like they were meant to come in with that energy, so they came early. Whether that and then same with like late babies or C-sections, even like the time had to come. It was time, because it was chosen from another dimension, which I know I'm a little crazy. I'm very out there with other dimensions and
Bryan's a
stuff.
little witchy in this.
I came from the
He's an
stars.
alien for sure. And
But the sun's important, the house especially, and the sign. But the house tells a lot about what your soul came to do, and the 12th house is very, very spiritual. It's there to connect to the outer realms. And Betsy's chart is so interesting because she is that Libra rising. So her houses and her signs are pretty much flipped for the most part. So that's why Libra's balance, right? It's the scales, because it is balancing and bringing the polarities together to merge reality with spirituality, to see that there's more things in other timelines taking place right now, but to bring it to this reality. And being there with the North Node just always exemplifies that. So, those are, I would say, the top 4 things of healing. And then there's always more. Astrology really is infinite, so you can really dive into a lot of things. Like, for instance, Betsy has her moon in a T square with the nodes. Or, I'm sorry, not the nodes, but yeah, the nodes
Well,
and the sun.
yeah, with
Yeah, all
Mars
of that, the
and my
nodes and the
sun
sun.
and my Venus. Yeah.
So, her moon aspects are definitely getting a lot of pressure from her past life, her where she's going, her sun, her Venus. And dealing with those hard aspects like a T square are also very much part of the healing.
Yeah.
So in this aspect, it's like her deeper emotions are very rooted in the second house here in Sag. It's expanding the emotions by finding self-confidence and building the reality that makes you feel very comfortable. And that almost tells the story of Chiron in Taurus. I mean, it a lot of things, like, that's how you can do chart readings, is when you start building that story that all syncs up to the
Yeah.
same outcome. And that's when you can really start to pinpoint big things that can help you grow and evolve.
Yeah. And that can help you shift. The other thing that, and I think I mentioned this to you when you were doing my roommate and friend's chart, the Chiron and Uranus, um, when it's that opposition that we were talking about, because and I've seen it actually in a couple of charts that I've done recently, when you have a Uranus and Chiron opposition. I think that that's a really big indicator of why people say that, like, bipolar was such a big deal in my generation, because that's a generational aspect. And when it's
Yeah.
within the 5 degrees on either end, right, the 5 orbs on either end, that's a really big group of people that go through erratic emotions and erratic, like, because that's basically what that is
Yeah.
your wound is being, like, shook up and triggered
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep.
And, like, having that there is pretty.
Yeah. Chiron is another, like, generational. I want to call Chiron a planet because Chiron's so important. He's
Yeah,
not quite a planet,
I know.
but
I wish they would just do it already.
he should be. He should be a planet. But
Let's petition
anyways, that's neither here
bipolar.
nor there. But yeah, Chiron's generational too. Chiron takes 50 years to orbit the sun. So he spends, and his orbit's so weird because he'll spend a really long time in Pisces, Aries, and Taurus, where he'll come really close, and kind of like Pluto,
Yeah.
he'll skip through like a lot of the summer months, like Cancer, especially Leo. I think Leo has the shortest time with Chiron there, ironically enough. So it's just like they're somewhat generational, and Uranus especially too is generational. And when you get those oppositions, it's
Yeah.
like
I
there's a
mean,
lot of
think
people born
about
with that.
how the mental health system just exploded with within the Gen X, with Generation X.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why we were all so emo is that
But
Chiron and Aries, Chiron and Taurus.
yeah.
Because Chiron and Aries is, we're back there again. And that's when Chiron was originally found, was when he was in Aries. And now
Mhm.
we've done that first loop,
Yep.
complete
Yep.
loop.
I love how it worked because we planned this out. So not looking at the transits, and
Yeah.
sure enough, today it's Chiron and the sun in opposition.
And you and
Um,
I always look at the transits for everything. That's the
I
weirdest
know,
part.
and we just didn't, and it was just in the stars already to talk about this on a
Yeah.
fated day.
So
So
today, Libra is opposing Chiron exact today of all. So the sun is literally shining.
yeah, 7 degrees of Libra and a 7-degree Chiron
Yeah.
today. So, and we're getting a big full moon conjunct with Chiron
Mhm.
tomorrow on Wednesday. So,
Is it tomorrow or is it Thursday? I thought it was Thursday. That was
um,
the
pretty
first.
sure it's Wednesday.
Is it? I need to write that down because I will forget. Um,
Yeah.
'Cause I thought it was on
Oh, it might
Thursday.
be
I don't know
Thursday.
why I kept thinking it was Thursday.
No, you might be right. I think you are. You're right. It was Thursday. Sorry.
I mean,
So yeah.
it's the moon is the moon is the moon. Like, it doesn't matter what day it's full, but um
No, yeah, but that's a big one. Conjunct Chiron and Aries. I mean, especially with Mars and Saturn squaring off and Saturn just going direct. We're at a big time for change. And it is change within working on our inner healing and our own egos that need to be healed. And we got to remember that Aries rules our identity and our drive and how we move forward. So if we're going to move forward, we have to make changes here with this full moon to start new things. You know, Aries is cardinal. It wants to start, it wants to go. And we have to be willing to work on ourselves. But the opposition, of course, being Libra, it can bring out a lot of tension with people if you're judging people's healing and not like seeing that we're all going through a little identity shift in one way or another in life. It can be difficult for the people who are just trying to force things at people, because that's not where the balance and the harmony is. The balance is letting everybody be in their true authentic identity, especially in these times.
yeah,
But yeah, anyways, a little off
completely
subject we
agree
were
with that.
talking about, but big full moon coming up for sure.
Yeah, really big full moon. And I've been talking a lot about with people with this full moon that, like, if you're not doing what you love to do and you're not bringing joy and passion into your life every single day, this full moon is going to show you what to release in
Hmm.
order to make room to be able to
Yeah.
do that. Because I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing with everybody right now is, you know, when you're stuck in a daily grind that is just soul exhausting, it's it's hard to be joyful, it's hard to be passionate, and to even see that that's possible. Like, not everybody has a Bryan or a Betsy hype man behind them going, come on, you can do it, you know?
And I think
So
that's the thing is, yes, we need to have people that we vibe with that can hype us up, but it's almost like we got to step into being our own hype man in
yeah,
like the biggest way.
yeah,
Um, because Aries is very much the
I
you,
am.
the identity,
Yeah,
the I am exactly. And it's like we got to step into that healing of being our own hype man and going forth with the things that we want to accomplish on our destined path. And I think Venus has been such a gift to us in Leo for all of this, for this last month, as Venus is, you know, coming off trines to Mars, trying to show us that, you know, we are beautiful and it is the love within us that is the beauty to move forward through anything. And Venus is going to be right on Regulus, just about for, which is the heart of the lion, for this full moon too. And it's like we got to find that lion within us, that courage to push forward through any weirdness that, because 2020 is just that kind of year. It's
yeah,
been
it
a
just
weird one. It's not over.
no.
More weird stuff that's likely to show up, especially with an election year during a great conjunction.
And
I
tonight
mean,
is the first presidential election, and I love that.
the debate, yeah, it's going to be
Yeah, on
crazy.
Twitter, Bryan shared the election chart, and so grab your popcorn and yeah,
Yeah, I'm not really into
me
politics.
neither.
I'm more
But
into
I'm gonna watch.
politicking for people to be sovereign and not like look for someone else to control them.
Yeah.
That's where I'm politicking. But man, I mean, it's just one of those years. I think it's one of those things to tune into, because I think more than anything, this sort of a transit can show where all the bullshit lies. And the thing is it lies on both sides. And
Oh, absolutely.
some people are going to see it and some people aren't. But you know, that Mercury in Scorpio, like truth is going to come out.
Yeah, there's nothing. They can't hide anything.
No. So
And like, I don't know if you saw the big headlines on Sunday when Mercury moved into Scorpio,
I
and
did. I
like all
did.
the tax stuff came out. Anyways, I don't want to get into politics, but
I have no idea. I don't even care.
yeah,
Like, I don't
astrology
trust
is
the
just
media. That's one thing
real.
about me
Like,
too, is I just don't trust the media at all. I trust the astrology. I trust my guides. I trust
mhm,
my family. I trust what I can control. The
yeah.
media, especially with Neptune and Pisces, Neptune rules the media. And yes, Neptune doesn't have like true essential dignities, but Neptune is very, very strong in Pisces. If it did have essential dignities, it would be dignified at home.
Mhm.
So we have to like learn to see through deception here. We have to learn to like
Especially with
not
the
just
South Node in Sagittarius.
exactly. We can't just fall into like the beliefs of what the world's telling us. The North Node in Gemini, we got to look for facts and see what makes sense in our immediate realities. It's about like small, you know. Gemini is like close. It's the twins. It's bridging gaps. And that's the other thing too, is like seeing the other side and just being like, okay, you can have your truth. That one didn't resonate with me, but I'm not gonna like, you know, fight you over it.
No,
Take,
and that's
go ahead.
exactly it right
Like,
there, is like the fight between the two kind of has to end somewhere. There's got
yeah,
to
we
be a
just have
line
to
drawn
see
somewhere,
it. You know,
right?
Gemini is the pillars and it's bridged, and it's like we have to bridge sides right now, and it's so
Yeah,
hard because this 2020 is so like it's just funneling people to the South Node Sag in like every way possible, whether it be political beliefs, religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs. There's just so many beliefs out there that people want to shove and be the guru for, and you kind of have to be the guru for yourself and your environment in these times and keep looking for actual factual things that resonate with you, but not judge or kill people for having their own
right.
resignation.
Yeah,
So there's
like
a lot
not
of stuff in
condemning.
astrology that when you can look at it can really help you kind of see where you should be looking in this time. Not only in your natal chart, but in the transits too.
Daily transits, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, I absolutely appreciate you. And if you are not following Bryan yet on YouTube, please get your butts over there right now and click on his channel. I'll make sure that I tag him in this video as well. Um, and go to Twitter and Instagram. He's got a lot of gems that he drops over there too. So I really appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy, busy man.
I mean, I always have time for you. I love you very much, and I'm so grateful that you had me on to talk about this. It was really a pleasure. I'm always grateful for the friendship that we've been able to grow over
Yeah,
this year. One of the beauties of 2020 is the people that you can align with, whether it be over the internet or in your own reality. It's the tribe that resonates with you, and I think that's like one of the ultimate gifts that this year was to bring, is to bring you towards that tribe.
definitely.
So
And I've seen that too. And I truly appreciate your light in this world and your light in my world as well. So thank you so
thank you.
much.
I appreciate you too. I love you, and
I love you
thanks for
too.
having me here.
Thanks, Bryan.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.